Good day and welcome to Etiquette Conversations with EFI and Shirley, where we redefine modern etiquette one conversation at a time. Here we explore how to thrive in life and work with poise, with purpose, and strategic grace. I am your host, EFI, and with me today is my very veteran, beautiful friend,
Shirley Shalaby, hi.
and we are going to be speaking about something that we all experience as long as we walk on the aisle of life. We experience it every day, and it is mastering and navigating office politics with tact. Now, in every organization, there are unspoken rules, power dynamics takes place. Strategic relationships shape the pathway to professional success. In this enlightening conversation, I and my friend Shirley, it's this conversation today is actually designed for professionals so that they have the tools to master and navigate office politics with grace and tact, not through manipulation, through emotional intelligence and ethical leadership. Today's discussion and conversation is for anyone who desires to influence without compromise, those who believe that success doesn't come at the expense of civility. So I'm going to invite Shirley at this time to bring us into office politics because today participants will learn how to read the room, and Shirley is so good at that. She will always tell you, you start with whatever your agenda is, reading the room. How they position themselves wisely, how they build alliances, how we diffuse conflict and advance their careers while remaining grounded in civility and personal values. Welcome, Shirley.
Hi. Thank you for this nice introduction. Yes, indeed, this is a very interesting subject. The ecosystem um, of modern workplace, the interactive ecosystem of the very busy workplace these days. Um, what is the most important thing to start with? It's respect, tact, respecting others, respecting
Mhm,
colleagues, respecting the company. That is the basic. I need to know to tell you that modern workplace nowadays, the degree and the competence are needed, but they are not enough. You
mhm,
need a lot of skills and you need strategies. Let's start with the strategy. The strategy needed has to go hand in hand with that of the company for which you work. I mean, the
mhm,
same language, the same
mhm,
focus, the same objective. And this comes with a lot of work, which we will elaborate later on. As for the skills, you need skills on your own. Of
mhm,
course, it's good to have a degree, but it does not take, it's not a shortcut to the top floor office, corner office, which is the great leadership. A degree is not enough. And other skills, many skills are not enough. What you need is corporate intelligence. And this starts with yourself, working
right.
on yourself. In what way? Your communication skills. Of course, it's 80% of your effect. Communication has got the verbal and the non-verbal, and the subject matter actually is nothing but 7%, which is
Mhm,
cutthroat. When we talk about verbal, now you need to work on that. Develop the verbal of the company by reading. Reading is power. Words are power. Using the vocabulary that is needed, that is being used in all the emails. Attending meetings, even if you don't have to, I'm afraid you'll have to. And listening to dialogues, being courageous and participating in dialogues. When you participate in important dialogues, you develop your sense of listening skills. Listening skills like a leader. You know what does the leader do? He listens, He gives you a chance to talk very kindly, and he does not contradict. He develops collaboration instead of contradiction. And this is a skill. It
Mm.
takes body language cues, it takes eye contact, and it takes patience and repetition. And it takes exercises through the company. That's what you need. Um, right. Understanding the body language cue of others is very important in order to avoid conflicts. As I said,
Right.
all conflicts should be collaborations, not conflicts. So you
Mm-hmm.
need to be poised and to understand. And this happens how? When you go early to meetings, when you have a chance to look around you, when you participate, as I said, with all that. What is also very important is networking. It's an effort. Young people, they say, "Oh, I've attended so many meetings and seminars. Am I not going to network?" But networking, that is networking with authenticity, and that is networking with no authenticity. So you
Right.
have to be careful. Be very honest and very authentic and very true to yourself. How do we network? Of course, participating in exercises. That is something very important with big companies. They produce team building exercises. Very important to participate in these team building exercises. Some of them are outdoors, and some of them are mind mapping exercises that makes you think, and always the end result, those who win are the ones who know the policy more. So that's very, very important. Indeed, companies help their own employees. You are not alone. Of course, with social media, with globalization, you can read, you can document yourself, and that's important. But your company helps you. Do not stay in your bubble. uh, Very important to be consistent. Consistency is leadership. I mean, is credibility. And there are a lot of how do you say, elevator pitches that tells you etiquette is paves the way for leadership. Politeness and tact paves the way for superiority. Being ethical is not to be authoritative. Again, is to be kind and to include everybody in a dialogue and in a conversation. So bottom line is a lot of energy, a lot of reading from your end, and a lot of courage. And if you would like to practice in front of the mirror, I don't see why not. You just make a small presentation by selecting the right words, and of course to be prepared. And then you find your way in company policy. I mean, it's vibrant, it's dynamic, and find your way in it. And best of luck.
Yeah.
So, Effie,
Uh,
what else you have to say?
I think I would want to start with defining what office politics really is.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Office politics, in my view, refers to the informal, often subtle power dynamics, influence, and relationships within a professional setting.
Mhm.
Now, it involves how individuals, you and I, position ourselves, how we advocate for our interests as different as they are, and as divergent as they are, and how we interact with others to gain visibility, favor, or access. Now, contrary to its often negative connotation,
Mm,
office politics is not inherently manipulative, I tell you.
mm,
It
mm,
is the art of navigating human systems, and when approached with civility and intention, it becomes a tool of refined influence and strategic leadership. And that's what my view is about office politics. Now, I would want to move next into why it exists in every organization. Office politics, it will emerge wherever there are people. Or let me put it this way. Politics emerge wherever there are people, even within families, even within your
yes.
children.
Mm,
Politics takes place in the home. Everyone is trying to gain or curry favor. So it will emerge anywhere you find people, anywhere you find resources, and where there are decision making structures. So when we say office, it's not particularly like it's just a place where there are people. No matter how egalitarian the mission, the organization, as long as the organization is made up of individuals with differing positions, ambitions, values, and interpersonal styles, politics will take place. So, politics is simply the natural outgrowth of people. Now, they're all navigating their limited opportunities, their shifting loyalties, and the unspoken rules that go on there. So, understanding this reality doesn't make you calculating. It just
No.
makes you a wise person that everywhere I am, politics is taking place, even at home. And parents shouldn't shy from it. And the way I see it is whatever you're going to face outside, the politics you're going to face outside starts from the home, starts from the father, the mother, and the children.
Very
And
true.
whatever you're going to meet outside, you will first meet at home. So it takes wisdom to be able to navigate all of this. That's why today we're talking about mastering and navigating office politics with tact. And wisdom, in my view, is the foundation of ethical leadership. Now, you have to understand, in understanding office politics, you must understand the power structures in the office. Now, whether they are formal or whether they are informal, every
Absolutely.
organization has a visible formal hierarchy. You have roles, you have titles, you have reporting lines, and you have responsibilities. But alongside, it exists an invisible yet very potent informal structure. Those who command respect, those who control the resources and the narratives or influence decisions without formal authority. Now, tactful professionals, when they go into an organization, they learn to recognize the formal and the informal. They understand who the decision makers appear to be,
Yeah.
but most of all, who they really are. They also learn to navigate both with diplomacy and discernment, which I call tact. So, for you to be able to master this, you must have a tactful mindset. You must be strategic, not scheming. I, for one, do not like scheming, but I like strategy. So, tact is not passivity, as some people would
No.
call it. It is not silence, in my view. Tact is certainly not manipulation either. I call it
Nonsense.
disciplined discernment. The ability to weigh your words. You remember when you started? So, a tactful person would weigh their words, they would understand the audience, and how, most of all, to advance the message without force or friction. The tactful mindset is very strategic. Now, it considers timing, it considers context, it considers tone. It refuses to be reactive, but responsive. That's what a tactful mindset is. Rather, it embodies composure, clarity, and quiet strength. That's what a tactful mindset is. So, if you have a tactful mindset, you will know that tact is not weakness. So in politics, like I would say, tact in office politics is not weakness. It is influence wrapped with elegance. That's what I call a tactful mindset. Next, I would want to go to discuss, and I don't know what you think about this before I go into discussing on and before I go into discussing the the so that people understand the office power map. I'd want people to understand the office power map. But before I go into that, I want you to have an input on what you think about the tactful mindset.
You just said it. Well, tactful mindset, as you said, it starts from home and so on. However, with the young people who are newly graduate, the tactful mindset is developed with their own work, with their own energy. And
Mm,
it has to start with them liking the strategy of the company, being
mm,
satisfied with the job. Oftentimes, when I interview, before I present a corporate training in a company, I usually interview the key people. And when I feel he doesn't like his job, I always advise him, you have to ask for a transfer to another department, or when you are dissatisfied, we can't ask you to be hands-on in developing your skill. So tact and respect is paramount. Paramount. Do not say I know it all, I have two master degrees and everything, and I do not need to make an effort. And again, I did not mention this time, and I do mention it again, your image is important. It's not just the tactful effort that you make, but again, the first impression makes a very big difference. When you walk into an office or for the first time with the colleagues that at the end of the hallway, and then you are wearing the proper attire, that, as you said, goes with the strategy and with the culture of the company. Had you been working for a financial institution or for a legal institution or working for a computer service company, so again, walk with the image. So tact is very important. Tact does not put barriers in dialogues. On the contrary, it builds bridges, especially if it's a multilingual company and with a lot of languages and a lot of nationalities. So you need a lot of tact. You need to know a lot and to have knowledge about that other culture, and to respect their way of conversing, their way of tackling subjects, their way of listening. Their body language cues could be very different. Do not impose on them your cues. Do not say, oh no, they're in my country. No, no, no. You have to meet halfway because the globe is really, really small. So it takes effort. I'm really asking you to make a lot of effort if you need to be succeed and to reach that top floor office.
yeah, so at this point, I want to now talk about our guests understanding the power map when they get into the workplace.
Mm,
Now, an office power map,
mm,
it's a visual or a mental framework that helps you to identify the real players and influential alliances within the organization. Now, beyond the organizational chart, you would observe that some people are the real players. So you
mm,
must have it as you get employed into the office. We advise that for you to be successful, then you have to have the office power map, either
absolutely.
visually, or you can do something like a mental power map beyond the organizational chart. You know the real players, and you know who the influencers are. Now, the office power map would actually reveal where the influences flows from, who the
Mhm,
decision makers are, and which individuals quietly or visibly shape outcomes. Now, just as diplomats study terrain before engaging, and Shirley is so good at this, I will invite her to talk about it. Tactful professionals study people power before navigating politics. People power is very, very important. Now, what are the key components of the power map? Remember, we're talking about understanding the office power map. Now, it is formal power. You find out that some people are titled, formal power is a title based authority. Now, that would include managers, it would include directors,
Mm-hmm.
include supervisors and executives. You remember Shirley was saying that when she goes to give a training, then she wants to discuss with the directors and the players. So those are those are title based authority. They are the visible decision makers. So their power is tied to rank, it is tied to policy, it is tied to influence, budget authority, and performance evaluation. Now, you also have the informal power. Now, these are people who influence things without
Yeah.
the authority, no title. These could be individuals who may not have title, but
Mm-hmm.
within the organization, they are well respected, they are
Mm-hmm.
well connected, and they are sought after for their advice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you must think, who is the trusted executive assistant that you need to see without seeing the MD? What about the long serving secretary? That's an informal powerhouse. The team member that everyone listens to during meetings. Take, for instance, our board. Who are the people who make silent decisions that you do not see? They
Mm-hmm.
are your powerhouse. They influence hearts and they influence cultures. Then let's look at social influencers within the office. These are the organizational glues. You find out that they are the ones that are organizing parties, they are the ones that are building networks, they are shaping opinions. They have charisma without formal authority. People just gravitate towards them. And they may include those who host social gatherings, they lead informal events or chats, they call them to build organizational friendships. Then surely there's one powerhouse that a lot of people would overlook, yet I will call them gatekeepers. They control access. And these people, they have information, they have opportunities. They may
Mm-hmm.
be, again, like I said, the executive assistant, maybe the HR officer, maybe the scheduler,
No.
or maybe the appointment setter, or even an IT personnel. I
Mm-hmm.
call them gatekeepers. Now, tactful engagement with these people. Remember, what they have, they are gatekeepers. So, what they have is access, which sometimes you need to be able to even have an audience with the titled authority. Then there are also hidden detractors and passive resistors. Not every power player is supportive. You must learn to make strategic alliance. So, to create your power map, you must observe, in my view, who is consulted before decisions are made.
Mm-hmm.
Observe, understand. Now, who do people naturally gravitate towards during break or during crisis moments? Then, who introduces ideas to gain traction? You must observe this if you want to do a good power map. Then, next, you must listen. Pay attention to tone, to references, and who differs to those references. Notice who never speaks, but everyone agrees with. It is
Absolutely.
very important, especially in meeting. Then the third step is connect. Build your rapport intentionally, starting with bridges. Those who are respected by both formal leaders and informal influencers. Build that your network and build it with so much intentionality. So learn to connect. And then the fourth step in your power map is your strategy. Align with values, not with clicks. Viewers, In building your power map, please align with values and not with cliques. What are the values? Like Shirley said at the beginning, what are the values of the company, the organizational culture, the policy? So align with values. And if you want to align with individuals that have the company policy and company culture. Then develop diplomatic relationships across silos. Now position yourself as a neutral yet gracious professional whose loyalty is to excellence and successful teamwork. Now, remember, office power map is about plotting. We've talked about how you plot your office power map. It's about perception, it's about discernment and proactive positioning. With it, you will not be chasing power, but you'll be aligning elegantly with tact. And so Shelley talked about already, she has talked about the tools. So tools for tactful professionalism. Shelley already talked about verbal tact. And I think at this point in time, I would invite Shelley to talk about diplomacy, verbal tact again, and diplomacy in language. She talked about tone. Shelley, I'd want you to talk about verbal tact and non-verbal tact in terms of poise, in terms of mien, in terms of timing, because we had talked about context, tone, and clarity. Please bring us into that.
I sure will. And if we don't have much time yet, I will keep it till next week. But as you mentioned, poise and giving a chance, poise in talking, giving a chance to others to talk, to express their opinion, and then rather than, even if you disagree, that's my final advice. Even if you disagree, don't you please don't say no and don't say I disagree. Utter questions. May I suggest, I would like to suggest, what about, how about this and that? This is really uh, the greatest diplomacy in verbal communication, had it been in workplace, had it been in politics, never to impose your opinion on others. And we can elaborate on that. That is a very long subject. Verbal assertiveness, verbal tact, verbal poise, and verbal elegance in your words. So that, thank you for, I'd love to have this elaborated in the next subject, in the next, our next meeting. That was
Ah,
just,
thank you so much, Shirley. It's been an enlightening, even as a trainer, when you have to talk about something, you have to read about it over and over again until you become a master. And I think that looking back at my days, my years of work experience when I was in physical offices, this topic has really made me to realize I wish I had
mm,
known what I know now back when I used to be in proper office space. I think it would have helped me better. However, I want to thank our audience for having and spending this wonderful time with us. We will return to you with a part two of
mhm,
office politics because I don't think we have
more.
gone into we have not expended all we have for you today, but we have to keep it short and simple. I want to thank my veteran beautiful
Thank
Shirley
you,
for
Esme.
joining us today. Next week she'll have a lot to say about verbal tact
Yeah, yeah.
and non-verbal tact in office politics. And we invite you to the part two of mastering and navigating office
Office.
politics with tact. Same time next week. Thank you for joining us. We love you.
Thank you, everybody. We learned a lot while presenting the idea. Thank you.